الإفريقية الجديدة. بقوة دفع مصرية تنطلق إفريقيا نحو حلم جديد وشراكات عالمية. القمة الإفريقية الروسية لأول مرة في التاريخ.
Hello and welcome to a new edition of Money Means Business. I'm Mohammed Abdelrahim and I'm sitting in this episode for Nermeen Nadhim. In this episode, we will be talking about the historic Russia-Africa Summit held in Sochi on the 23rd and 24th of October and co-chaired by the host, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the President of the rotating presidency of the African Union, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Now, that summit saw pledges from the part of Russia to double its trade with Africa and saw President Sisi's assertion of the significance of the Russia-Africa cooperation over the upcoming period. The President also reiterated that Egypt always exerts utmost efforts for achieving Africa's development, security and stability during Egypt's current presidency of the African Union. It is to note that this is the seventh summit that has been attended by the President since he took over the rotating presidency of the African Union. There was that Munich conference, the Beijing conference, the G20 Osaka meeting, the Sideline Summit, the 45th G7 Summit, TCAD 7, the UNGA and the FAO, and of course, most recently, the Sochi Summit, the Russia-Africa Summit on the 23rd and 24th of October in Sochi, Russia, co-chaired by the Egyptian and Russian presidents. This will be our main topic in this episode, and we will have a very distinguished guest with us here in the studio, in our Nile TV International studios later on. But we first start with this batch of latest news. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a meeting on Saturday with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Planning Hala al-Said, and Minister of Finance Mohammed Maït, as well as the Executive Manager of the Egypt Sovereign Fund. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassem Radi said the meeting discussed the developments of the economic indicators. As Said said, the growth domestic production GDP reached 5.6% in the fiscal year 2018-2019, the highest in 11 years, stressing that communications, construction, industry, tourism, and Suez Canal sectors were of the highest achievers. Radi added that the President gave his directives to realize the utmost benefits from the positive economic indicators achieved, stressing that the investment projects which provide multi-job opportunities are of the first priority. The head of state also highlighted the importance of improving the productivity and promoting the quality of workers, especially in the modern technology and communication fields, in the light of the global market competitiveness. The President had returned to Cairo after concluding the Russia-Africa Summit in Sochi, which he co-chaired as President of the rotating presidency of the African Union with Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Sisi and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, held a joint conference where they reviewed the main topics which were tackled during the summit. President Sisi stressed the significance of the Russian-African cooperation. He also reiterated that Egypt has and will exert utmost efforts to help in achieving Africa's development, security and stability during Egypt's current presidency of the African Union. For his part, Putin said that Russia is looking forward to enhancing ties with the African countries, especially in the fields of trade, economy, energy, and investments. Still with economic news, Fitch Solutions expects Egypt's GDP to grow to 5.7% this fiscal year, up from 5.6% in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. The research institution affiliated to Fitch Global Credit Ratings Agency in a report on Friday said that the decisions of the Central Bank of Egypt, the CBE, to cut interest rates supports the increase of private sector investments. Lower inflation and lower interest rates will also help boost consumer demand, according to Fitch Solutions. That stressed that sustaining high growth rates over the medium term will require continued structural reforms in Egypt. Fitch Solutions also predicted that the CBE, the Central Bank of Egypt, will continue to cut interest rates by 200 basis points by the end of 2020. That's according to the prediction of Fitch Solutions. And that, according to the agency, should reduce borrowing costs for local companies. A shift already started to support commercial lending rates, which in turn will help boost momentum in the region, private investment in the near term. And Eni announced on Friday the discovery of new resources in the Abu Rdais development lease in the Gulf of Suez. The Italian company said the Sidri 36 appraisal well drilled to assess the westward extension of July's Sidri discovery encouraged a significant hydrocarbon column. It added the well will be completed and put into production in the next few days with an expected initial flow rate of about 5,000 barrels per day. The company also said the Sidri South discovery, estimated to contain about 200 million barrels of oil in place, will be reassessed following these new results. It is known that Eni has overall investments of more than 13 billion US dollars in Egypt. And the US dollar fell against the Egyptian pound last week, again losing 8 piastres. The dollar rate at the National Bank on Thursday was 16.10 pounds for buying and 16.20 pounds for sale, compared to 16.18 and 16.28 the prior week. That's according to data from the National Bank of Egypt. The dollar retreated against the pound in various Egyptian banks during last week's trading. Over the long weeks, the dollar has fallen against the pound, and as the foreign exchange rate continues to fall, a number of analysts and bankers are forecasting different moves on the dollar against the pound for the rest of 2019. The pound now is the strongest it has been in more than a year and a half. And with us for analysis on this story over the phone now is Dr. Ashraf Saleh, and he is a professor of economics and finance. Dr. Ashraf Saleh, thank you very much for joining Money Means Business and Nile TV International. Sir, what do you think of the ongoing moves, the exchange rates between the pound and the dollar? Recently, the Egyptian pound has been gaining steady ground in the past few months against the US dollar, and it is the strongest it has been against the dollar for quite some time now. Dr. Ashraf? All right, we apologize these viewers for this technical issue, and we will get Dr. Ashraf Saleh later in the program to comment on that story. But we now go to our main topic, the Russia-Africa Summit, the Sochi Summit, and we welcome here with us in the studio our dear guest, Engineer Hassan Al-Shafi'i, the president of the Egyptian-Romanian Business Council, and also economic expert. Thank you very much, Engineer Al-Shafi'i, for joining us.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Dear sir, dear viewers, we'll take a short break and then return to tackle our main subject with our dear guests here in the studio, so please stay with us.
Egypt has uniquely undergone 2 revolutions in less than 3 years for better living and the rule of democracy. Egypt remains, after all, as an attractive investment destination despite the difficulties it faced. Ahead of the 2011 revolution, the Egyptian economy was performing well, as confirmed by all KPIs.
We feel very confident about the Egyptian market. The main factors or the main pillars of the Egyptian economy are still here, and they're not going anywhere.
Egypt is a good place to invest, first of all, because it's a big market. It's a big local market. It's a good geographical location. You have good people, and the costs are competitive. So it's a great place. It was, it is, and it will be a great place to invest.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and thank you for staying with us. You're in the company of Engineer Hassan Al-Shafi'i, and myself, Mohammed Abdurrahim, here in Money Means Business. And we've got now Dr. Ashraf Saleh, Professor of Economics and Finance, back with us over the phone to talk to us about the ongoing moves in the exchange rate between the pound, the Egyptian pound, and the US dollar. The pound getting stronger, really, against the dollar in recent months. Dr. Ashraf, thank you for joining us. To what do you attribute this strength, this relative strength for the Egyptian pound against the US dollar in the past few months, sir?
So, sorry, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear quite well.
Yes, Dr. Ashraf, what are the major factors, in your view, that govern the trend of the exchange rate between the Egyptian pound and the US dollar, noting that the Egyptian pound has been gaining relative strength against the US dollar in recent months?
First of all, good evening. I think that the Egyptian overall performance has been doing quite well in the last couple months. I mean, with first of all, the very adequate increase in the economic growth rate, reaching around 5.6%, with expectations to become 5.9% on the coming year.
5.7.
With the very high inflow of U.S. dollars in the country. I mean, since the devaluations or the floating exchange rate in November 2016 and up to now, more than 120 billion U.S. dollars have come to Egypt, whether from Suez Canal revenues, whether from remittances of Egyptians living abroad, a little bit of tourism, and all of these factors added together for the decrease of the U.S. dollars towards the Egyptian pounds, around 1.3 Egyptian pounds decrease in the value of U.S. dollars within the last couple of 9 months, actually.
Right. Sir, some analysts and bankers believe that the dollar will continue to fall against the Egyptian pounds to around 15.5, 15.5. It's just a guess, an expectation. Others think that the dollar will rise back against the Egyptian pound. What do you think?
So you're putting me in between both of them. No, actually,
it's a tough question. But it's the question of the hour. Yeah.
Sorry.
It is a difficult question. It's a difficult prediction. It's the question of the hour. Actually. Yeah, exactly.
To tell you the truth, I mean, I think that the U.S. dollar may go further, but going down further. But in order for the U.S. dollars to go down further, the amount of activities leading it to going down from the first beginning should increase. And this is one of the things that I don't think that any expert will be able to expect. I mean, it's a little bit of superstitious thought rather than economic factors. I mean, you have to know that, and you can notice quite easily that there is a very high commercial instability all over the world, with the fear of Iran, with the fear of Turkey, with Turkey going into Syria. And so we cannot really expect to what extent would the commercial activity remain stable. Any instability in the area or in the regions would actually lead the U.S. dollars to go up further, the Egyptian pounds not to go down. Yes. So if anybody can guarantee what's going to happen, commercially speaking, in the business era in the coming couple of months, then I can answer where the dollars would go.
Right, and if everybody could have this guess, well, everybody would have been rich, right, Dr. Ashraf? So it's the economy, so it's the market. So thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf Saleh, Professor of Economics and Finance, for talking to us all the way from Dubai here on Nile TV International. He was with us over the phone. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf Saleh. Back now here in the studio with our dear guest, Engineer Hassan Al-Shafei, and the Russia-Africa Summit, the Sochi Summit. Sir, how did you see this summit that has been described as historic by some analysts?
I see it as a very successful move from Russia. They've done a very good job. And if you allow me to analyze the picture first. Russia has a sanction, an economic sanction from European because of the Ukrainian matter. And therefore, they're looking for markets all over the world, which is not really a lot there to go. Africa is a very potential market for them. I think they've done, in my opinion, they've done a good job in the Middle East in the last few years. And they have a lot of capacity. They developed themselves from the surplus of the fund from the oil and the energy. They develop a lot of things in the country. They are pioneer now in atomic stations, the peaceful atomic stations. They are pioneer in railway equipments and other things. Of course, and equipments and all energy matters. In the other hand, Africa has proved in the last couple of years that they have the fastest growth, economic growth in the world right now. I think you're talking about some of the countries in Africa, like Rwanda, has growth of over 10%. Even Ethiopia has like that. So Russia has a trade with the African for 20 billion US dollar last year, which is good, but it's very modest for them comparing to the Chinese, for example. They done much better job last year. They have 204 billion US dollar. Again, that's less than the EU, which they done 335 billion US dollar.
All of this trade with Africa.
This is all the trade balance between the Russia, China, and EU. So the potential is there. It's very clear. So
the Russian president promised to double the
he
trade.
Said, through the help and the big effort from Egypt as a chairman of the African Union this year, they invited all the African countries. I think 40 countries has accepted the invitation. They went there. Over than 3,000 officials, they went there. And they done a good job in these few days. They signed, I heard, about
dozens of memorandums of understandings
and deals for expecting deals for over 13 billion US dollar.
Correct.
Only through the summits.
Right.
But when we talk about the 20 billion between Russia and the African, 7 billion of them only to Egypt. So Egypt is still the big partner, the big economic partner for Russia. And really their partners in Africa is Egypt, is actually Algeria, Nigeria, and Angola, and that's practically it. Now they really expanding all over the whole continent.
Yeah, I see here that there is a signing of memorandums of understanding or deals with the Republic of Congo and with Ethiopia this time around in the Sochi summit.
I think they're talking very seriously with Ethiopia about a few things. They're talking about Nigeria, about the same atomic stations like
the
Egyptian
Daba
one. To go to Africa, this is not an easy market because Africa doesn't have cash to pay. They need the development and they have all the potential to develop, but they need credits. So whoever want to play in Africa, he has to have the capability of credits, and that's what the Chinese did in the last few years, and they did a very good job. And I don't think anyone can compete with them because they reached already over 200 billion. But the Russian go to Africa with a lot of credits. The same thing like they done with Egypt in this atomic in Daba
plants.
This is make easy for the African countries to sign the contracts, and it's a win-win. You know, the African needs this know-how, they need this technology, and they don't have the fund to pay for it, but you know, with credits lines and so they can accept it. Also, a lot of African countries, they have in their background mind the shadow of the imperialism from Britain, France, and even United States. So they are really happy to see alternative. They welcome Chinese, but China reached the point is getting danger now, you know, because it's involved everywhere in Africa. So this is the alternative to bring Russia. So I think it's a win-win. The Africans are very happy to have the Russians to go there. I think the Russians are very excited to go to that market, and they do have the capability to go and make business there.
Right, Engineer Shafi, I think you've touched on a very important point, because that's where most of the analysts are going, is that they are talking about, yes, there is something promising here. Yes, there is room for bigger cooperation between Russia and Africa. Of course, Egypt with a leading role, Egypt the gateway to and the gateway from Africa, as always. But the question is the one that you put, is that can they match the Chinese? Can they even get to a stage where they are close to the Chinese? Because China is already very much involved in the continent. Yes.
Well, they need a few years to catch with the Chinese, but they have some advantages than the Chinese. For example, the Russians has raw material and natural resources in their country. The Chinese didn't. So in the long term, the Russian can sell natural resources to I'm talking about energy, for example, specifically.
Yeah, because Africa is very rich when it comes to natural resources. So
no, but not in energy, in mining.
Yeah, that's why you specify.
Yeah, you talk about mining. I think what Russia needs from Africa, number one, they want to get to the mining. They're doing a very good job now in Angola, in gold, for example, and. Africa is very rich in mining. I think Russia is going to go for that. Russia is going to, of course, after they make good relations, they were going to sell their equipment, their weapons there, which is very much needed. And they have a different policy than the other European countries. They go as, you know, peaceful. They don't want really conflicts. So they play the game right. They go as a friends, and they cooperate, and they give you credits, and they sell you weapons for protection, so it sounds good. So I think it's going to be tough in the beginning, because of course a lot of African countries historically they follow the West and the United States regime, but I think with a little effort, with of course with effort and the help from Egypt, they will succeed in that.
Right, sir. This is the seventh such international summit that the president has attended as head of the rotating presidency of the African Union. Other summits and gatherings have included the Munich, the UNGA, the FAO, TCAT 7, the 45th G7 summit, the G20 Osaka summit, Beijing summit. So how do you see Egypt's efforts as head of the AU's rotating presidency in bringing the world to Africa?
Before I tell you my opinion, I tell you I met a few officials, ambassadors and other officials from African countries in the last few months. And they all appraise Egypt. They are very impressed by the effort. And they told us they never seen a chairman for the union done this big effort and successfully put them together with the international countries. So I think we're doing a very good job. You cannot compare it with the previous one. I have to say we have to give credit to Egypt and to our president for what he done so far in this one. In my opinion, everybody in the world running after Africa, because everybody analyze this is the future, this is the growth, this is the market which you can sell. And these people, they lived for so many years very poor. Now they start to get some educations and some culture, and they start to really build their countries. They will need a lot of equipments, a lot of know-hows, and if we can there help them through the credit lines, which I mentioned in the beginning, I think the equations would be win-win all the way. So in my opinion, putting our effort with Africa, understanding their language and their culture, this is the future.
Great. On this great note, Engineer Shafii, dear viewers, we'll take a short break and come back and continue our discussion here at our Nile TV studios. Please stay with us.
مصر مش أي أرض، مش حبات تراب ورمل، دي كل شبر فيها يعني فرصة، يعني أمل. دي أرض مروية بإصرار وعزيمة وعمل. كل نقطة مية غالية بتفتح طريق لبكرة. جاري استصلاح 1.5 مليون فدان ضمن 4 مليون فدان مستهدفة للاستصلاح. صوب زراعية يتم تجهيزها بأحدث التكنولوجيا. وتخصص 30,000 فدان في الوادي الجديد لزراعة 2.5 مليون نخلة ضمن مشروع توشكا. تم رفع الحظر المفروض على المحاصيل المصرية وفتح أسواق جديدة للتصدير. أما المزارع السمكية فارتفع إنتاجها بعد زيادة عدد المزارع السمكية الحديثة، حيث تم الانتهاء من 1360 حوض بمزرعة بركة غليون و4440 حوض في مشروع هيئة قناة السويس، وجاري تنفيذ مزرعة شرق بورسعيد السمكية على مساحة 15,000 فدان ومزرعة مثلث الديبة. ونخلق في الرمل حياة وجمال وإيدين تحصد خير ملهوش حد. بلغ حجم الاستثمارات خلال 6 سنوات حتى يونيو 2020 48 مليار و500 مليون جنيه. مصر، التحدي والإنجاز.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Engineer Shafii, as you mentioned that perhaps the energy sector will be one that will see a lot of cooperation or has a lot of room for expansion between Russia and Africa. You said that you expect Moscow to focus on mining in Africa. Also, according to the statements issued from the Sochi meeting, there are the fields of infrastructure, agriculture, and information technology are also witnessing further pledges of future cooperation. So I want to ask you about these sectors in specific: agriculture, infrastructure, and information technology. How do you see the cooperation?
Okay, I like to rate the potential between Africa and Russia. Number 1 is mining. Number 2 is energy. Number 3, in my opinion, is military equipment. Okay, but then infrastructures, of course, Africa needs. Africa has to build a lot of roads, a lot of ports, a lot of airports, and a lot of stations to generate electricity, desalination stations in some places, and this is all available in Russia, but it's also available in other countries. So Russia has to compete with these people because now Africa is an open market. Of course, when you give credits, you have a little advantage. But in the end of the line, it is competitions between quality and price. And Russia really doing a very good job when it comes to energy, when it comes to mining, and when it coming to specifically in the infrastructures in the railways. They are one of the top in the world right now in railways, in all the details of this, for all the equipments, the technology. And I think they build in Russia quite a few thousand kilometers there, so they do have the experience and the matter. Of course, when we talk about energy, they are, you know, they rated as #1 for the small and the medium atomic stations for peaceful purposes. So they are there. They are very, very experienced country when it comes to oil and gas. And of course liquidating the gas as well. This is all needed, you know, beside of course building roads, building dams like they done in Egypt heirs. They do have the capability and the fund to move to that now. The point is, you know, of course we like Russia, they are our friends and everything, but the point is, what is it for Egypt? I think we should be the real bridge, and I think the Africa ready for that. We should not really let anybody to go directly to Africa without being in the middle. You know, we have, I think...
Well, we are the natural gateway again to and from Africa.
But we have to play it more clearer than that. We have a lot of skilled people, engineers, doctors, teachers. We have to send our teacher there, and we have to invite their students to learn in Egypt, to really have, to make them have a background, a good culture from the Egyptians, so they can really communicate peacefully and smoothly with us after that. I think the potential that Egypt play a very important role for Africa is there. But it is not just an agreement between two governments. It has to be all the Egyptians, all the skilled engineers, doctors, geologists, whatever, you name it. They have to be there. They have to cooperate with the African and build these countries because they really need that.
Yes, Engineer Shafii, you've mentioned, sorry, in your words and in your analysis, rightly so, when talking about the Russian role and the promised or the expected future Russian role in Africa, you mentioned the Chinese presence and you mentioned the European Union's presence. What about the American presence? Where is the US from all of this?
They are there, of course, but not that big. That's why it's not counted. You know, Africa, you know, I think they're doing good business in some countries like South Africa. More or less, that's it. Morocco.
So now China is the major big power present
China
in
as one country.
As one country.
It is #1. And remember, there are one other country coming very soon to Africa and coming very severely, which is India. Because there are a lot of Indian already there, live there for years. And
a lot of Africans are from Indian origin, in the East at least. Yeah.
You remember the history of Gandhi, he went to South Africa first. And I think this will help that the India will go smoothly again, you know, to this country. So I think Africa is going to be a very competitive market to everybody. Of course, for Egypt. I think we have advantages, and that's why Russia is building in the free zone area, the Russian area. Basically, they want to build these factories to make products for the Middle East and Africa, because we have agreement with the African. They, you know, most of the African countries already signed agreement with Egypt, which is really cut the tariffs. This is give advantage in the prices, of course. And of course, there are some kind of subsidizing when it comes to transportations, goods transportation, and so. So Egypt has a lot of potentials. Russia or whoever want to go to Africa, if they really select Egypt as a center, they will share these advantages.
Absolutely. Now, sir, also about the Russia-Africa cooperation. When you mentioned that Africans continue to have this memory of, when it comes to Europeans, for instance, of looking at them as former colonists or so on. Of course, that is not the same view when it comes to the Russians. But the question is there a political price that is to be paid for this economic partnership with Russia? Is Africa or are African countries supposed to or likely to pay some political price for that?
Of course, Russia like to have this is what we call the soft population.
Yeah, we see where you're going.
Russia now needs Africa to share their opinion when it comes to the United Nations or other international world, and it is definitely in their advantage. If you ask me the question, if they have any objections against the entrance of Russia to Africa, I will say, as I know, no. Because Russian, even the Chinese or the Indian, they never have a bad memories with the African.
Right.
Remember this, the African,
so it's just about business. Mainly,
it is
mutual interest.
It is business, and it is in the advantage of the Russian against the other European, because of
the Americans,
because of the slavery in the old days and the history. Africa will welcome an alternative. They don't want to go back to the old days.
So just like Egypt wants to regain its historic role in Africa during the Nasser days, for instance, the Russians naturally want to regain their, I'm not going to say dominance, but their presence in many parts of the world like they used to in the days of the former Soviet Union, right?
I think the Russians look to it this way. The Chinese started like 10 years ago, and they did a good job, and they reached that figure. And they are not as strong internationally or politically as the Russian.
Naturally,
they don't have the natural resources as we mentioned. So the Russian has the capability to do even a better job than the Chinese, and that's why the objectives is very clear for them. For us as Egyptians, again, we are a part of this country. We have good relations in the old days. We have to rebuild these good relations and be the bridge for whoever want to enter this continent.
Again, Egypt is the natural gateway to and from Africa, to Russia, to China, to Europe, to anybody in the world. Dear viewers, on behalf of you, we thank very much Engineer Hassan Shafai, the head of the Egyptian-Romanian Business Council and economic expert, because unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you very much, Engineer Shafai, for being with us. It's been a great pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching this episode of Money Means Business. Nermeen Nadeem will be back in her seat next week. And I thank you again for watching with me here, Money Means Business. I'm Mohammed Abdirahim, and this is a goodbye.